And you can watch us live through our YouTube channel, Major Online TV. Data is now not expensive in Ghana, so please make sure that you get a lot of bundles and watch us there. But Mama V is here looking sweet as always. What color is this? Peach?
Something like that. Something like that.
Looks good.
Thank you very much.
Is it Debenham?
Which one is that?
Hello.
This was made in Ghana.
One of the store brands.
I'm not sure about the fabric being made in Ghana, but definitely put together in Ghana by my designer. Her name is Beatrice. Just call her Auntie B. Right. She's at Westlands. It's smart clothing. Yeah.
Well, my shirt too was made by Alice Couture, so that's good.
I don't believe that.
Right, but we'll have to do a lot of newspapers, and this morning been quite interesting.
Is it because you missed me yesterday? Like,
yeah, I did.
You know, like I did.
You. I was so lonely without you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do I believe that?
Hard, you know.
Do I believe that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yesterday was Val's Day.
Nothing
and
exciting.
you claim you are like romantic and you know all that.
Yeah. Yesterday I made a call for some deliveries of the chocolate to be given to you, but I don't know why you took yesterday off.
That's a joke, right?
No, it's true.
Yeah.
I'm not as difficult as you think.
But you know, there are dispatch riders all over. It doesn't really matter where you are. Anything can be delivered to you.
You live on the border between Greater Accra and Eastern Region. It's a bit difficult.
So the riders don't come that far.
I don't know.
I figured.
And we had some...
You're so dry and stiff.
We had some statement from the police that those of you who live there, you should be careful of criminals and all that. You saw the statement.
But I brought you some chocolates.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Let's do the newspapers.
A day after Valentine's.
Oh, whatever. Okay, but how was your Val's Day?
Nothing unusual.
You know, I usually forget that it is even Val's Day. It's like any other day.
I mean, the only time I remember celebrating Val's Day, not that I had any particular thing to do because it was a school period when I was in journalism school. That was the early part of the 2000s. Since then, I don't know. And yesterday you could see that there was no craze for the event.
Oh, that's what I thought till the evening when I was headed home.
Okay.
It was crazy. The joints were full. I saw people.
You went through Osu or where?
No, this was around Kwabenya, Sohacho, Kwabenya, thereabouts, and yeah, people were chilling in their reds.
Well, yesterday was a Wednesday.
Yeah, yesterday was a Wednesday. I was surprised.
You may have the hangover, I think.
Well, it depends on what you do.
Yeah.
True. All right, let's do the news. We hope that you had a lot of fun yesterday, and Love FM, at least the listeners of Love FM, at least they had a lot of fun. Somebody saying that I wish it was every month. Really? You can do it every month, but definitely not be sponsored by Love FM.
Yeah,
you can do that yourself.
True.
Okay, so now let's look at the newspapers. We will talk South Africa, we will talk Morgan Tsvangirai, and we will talk the Florida shooting as well. That's coming up in a bit, but let's look at our country.
Do we have some sound bites for it?
Definitely.
On South Africa especially?
Yeah.
Right.
So let's look at the Daily Graphic newspaper, front page of the Daily. Or we talk about South Africa first, shall we? No. Let's do it in the Daily Graphic newspaper. So front page of the Daily Graphic, CJ probes 2 court registrars over embezzlement of fines. You find David Lai and Patience Nye on the front page of the Daily Graphic newspaper. Appointments Committee gives Amidu the nod. Also another headline there. And Cocoa Board operates on $2 billion budget deficit. This is due to fall in cocoa price on the international markets. And then NCA calls telcos to order, gives them up to end of February to improve services, particularly the one that I am on during, like, it's almost like daylight robbery where you can't even receive WhatsApp messages. It takes such a very long time. It can be really, really frustrating. Let's start off from page 3. The story says the Chief Justice, Ms. Justice Sophia Ekufo, has dispatched 3 top auditors from the Judicial Service to probe embezzlements at the Ajabeng District Magistrate Court in Accra, while calls for the interdiction of the 2 accused registrars intensify. The team led by the head of the non-tax revenue units of the Judicial Service, Mr. Eric Boama, stormed the Ajabeng Court last week to collect receipt books covering fees and fines for verification. Now, Mrs. Patience Nye, who is a High Court registrar, and Mr. David Lai, a Circuit Court registrar, who is also an assistant referee, have for many months allegedly diverted and pocketed unspecified sums of money in court fines and fees. And a source close to the registrar's office hinted the Daily Graphic that the diversion of court fees and fines was a practice at the Ajabin Court Registry spanning many years. Now we know that investigations are in place. We will see how that goes. We'll definitely be following the story, but there's a lot more to this report than what I've just read out to you. So it will be good to grab the paper.
So they spend the money alone, or they embezzle the money alone?
Well, so for now, you know,
well,
it's these two people that
over
they're
a period
looking
of
at.
what?
Yeah, over a period of, well, you've got to read the story. You've got to read it. There's a lot more to it that you have to take time. Okay, so according to the 2015 Auditor's General's report, the Judicial Service consistently failed to reconcile revenue totaling over, this is 5,815,845 million Ghana cedis, and then some 75,000 euro, I think. The report stated that the Auditor General could therefore not confirm whether the revenue and deposit had been credited to the accounts of the court. So, you know, different infractions that you can follow through this story. Where do we go from here? 54, I think, page 54 it is. Let's look at this NCA directive and whether or not it will be followed. It says the National Communications Authority has met mobile network operators to discuss and implement measures on consumer concerns relating to tariff and billing issues as well as quality of service. Speaking at the meeting, the Director General of the NCA, Joe Anoche, stressed that today's consumers have become more demanding and no longer choose speed, quality, or price, but demand and expect all three. As a result, the authority, as part of its mandate, has to ensure that consumers receive the value of the service they pay for. Mr. Anoche, we appreciate the fact that you know exactly what we want as consumers. Please. You know,
do the needful.
Yes, sure. Ensure that we get it. But for a start, you know what we want. That's a good place to start. 3 Most launch holiday bonanza. It's also another story here, but I think there was a certain page 20. I think on this cocoa board story. Where's page? ECG must go. There's an opinion in the paper. Somebody writing on that. You can also take a look. It's Charles Owusu. Joanna, that's a piece in the Daily Graphic newspaper. But on page 18, before we do the back page of the paper, the cocoa board operating on some $2 billion budget deficits. It says that cocoa contributes significantly to the country's economy, yes, but we don't consume much of it in Ghana. Everything is consumed in Europe, and they determine the price. So this is the chief executive of Cocoa Board, Joseph Boahin Edu, speaking to journalists on National Chocolate Day celebrations. Okay, so this revelation came out yesterday as the nation observed Chocolate Day. Did you feel chocolate in the system yesterday? At least I did. A lot of people came out.
The only place I saw chocolate were on the streets. I have some retailers who sell on the streets.
Yeah.
So they had lots of them, and yesterday I had just returned from a meeting. They were asking me, chocolate, and I'm saying, no,
my hospital
because usually when I eat chocolate, I'm not able to eat after. So.
My hospital sends me a text. I think like 3 text messages, like come by for,
Your
and
hospital?
I figured it was chocolates.
Which hospital was that?
Medifem.
Oh,
so
that'd be hospital. They'll give you a text. That's good customer relations.
I renewed my insurance, and they also gave me chocolates.
Wow.
Yeah, and then somebody also gave me chocolates in class. So chocolates. I felt chocolate yesterday. Quickly on the back page of the Daily
You always have chocolates in your bag.
Yes, I do. Yeah. Because it's. Okay, I don't want to share because I want to encourage you to eat.
Yeah.
So on the back page of the Daily Graphic newspaper, we have this 265 slums identified in Accra.
Only in Accra?
Ghana. Yeah, it says about 265 slums at different stages of development have been identified in Accra. A senior lecturer, the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, Dr. Prince K. Anochi, has disclosed, citing a recent research conducted by People's Dialogue on Human Settlements, Ghana, a non-governmental organization. He said, quote, as many as about 116 are still in their infantile stages, with some already fully developed slums, unquote. Details of that on the back page of the Daily Graphic newspaper. Oh, that's a quick read. Okay, yeah.
All right, so let's do the Ghanaian Times quickly. It says, President in Nigeria for a 2-day conference on governance in Africa. The story is on page 17, but the arrest of 3 suspected grenades, they are explosive. Now the police have confirmed, and we know that the 3 suspects are already on the front page of the Ghanaian Times. And when you go on other stories, it says 265 unplanned settlements discovered in Accra. Almost like what the Daily Graphic said.
Yeah, same research.
Okay. So Flaxa files to be renamed Jubilee House, according to the president. That's okay. So those are the stories. Back page, though. Government to build cocoa museum in honor of Tete Kwashi. That's how far we've come with our cocoa. Building museums. And then we have logistical constraints hamper sanitation management in 6 MDAs. All right. Can we go on?
You're through with Times?
Yes, I am.
All right, let's follow up quickly then with the Daily Dispatch newspaper. Front page is Martin Abidus, 181 questions. The breakdown is in the paper. The full story is on the back page. And then Trump's lawyer admits to paying porn star before 2016 elections. But they say they're not sure if Mr. Trump himself was aware of this payment. I was like, okay, where's this question even coming from? How could he not be possibly aware of something of the sort? Meet Africa's 23 billionaires. That's also in the paper. Roland would love this. So a bit of it on page 4. That's where he's aiming at.
I can only salivate over it. There's nothing else I can do.
What's the richest African for the 7th year in a row is Nigerian cement and commodities tycoon Aliko Dangote, with a net worth that Forbes pegs at 12.2 billion US dollars. That's up $100 million from a year ago. Okay, so number 2 on the list is diamond mining Hair, Nikki Oppenheimer of South Africa, with a net worth of 1.7 billion US dollars, up $700 million from last year. And then last year, South Africa and Egypt tied with 6 billionaires each, boosting the South African ranks this year. So newcomer, is it Michael Leroux, the founder and former chairman of Johannesburg-listed Capitec Bank Holdings, whose stock has climbed more than 50% in the past year. So, you know, if you're aiming at getting there, you probably might want to look at this research.
You can only read the research. There's nothing you can do about it.
Oh, my God. All right. So details of who the billionaires are in Africa. So Zimbabwe gets its first billionaire this year.
Yeah.
So telecom magnate Strive Mesiwa, who chairs the Econet Group, shares of Zimbabwe listed mobile phone network.
TV and all that.
Yeah. So there's Econet Wireless Zimbabwe.
These are gentlemen.
All right. What I do know is that the man who's acting, going to be leading South Africa, is also one of the richest men in South Africa. So yeah, that's what I know. Yeah. What? Stop dreaming.
Yeah, I can only dream. Let me do the Daily Guy.
Yeah, now you're confused.
Yeah, a Daily Guy has on the front page, Amidu chases Woyoma gang. You know, Bawumia shows love to Samira on Val's Day. Mahama killer's trial begins, and government cuts petroleum tax to 13%. That's interesting. Let's look at that. Story should be on page 6. Let's go to page 6 and see if it's there. If it's not there, we'll go to page 8 as it is. Okay. So let's go to page 8. On so page 8 we have, it says, the Ministry of Finance yesterday laid a special petroleum tax amendment bill 2018 that seeks to reduce the special petroleum tax of 15% to 13% to help reduce the prices of petroleum, which in recent times have seen an upward adjustment. And we know that this was introduced by the Media Pass NDC administration to shore up revenues generated from fuel prices when crude oil prices were plummeting. Even though it was criticized then, they are still maintaining that. So it means there's something good in the policy after all. All right. So those one would do. Let's go to the center spread of the news one. I always like reviewing that. It says Super Odi was a legend Akufo-Addo, and we know that Super Odi passed on at the age of 84, had an illustrious acting career in Ghana, especially with the Osofo Daze group. Had weekly programs. We all had to file around black and white TVs. If you're lucky, locked up in boxes. That is if you have a liberal father. If you didn't have a liberal father, it was brought out once in a week and you watch. So may so rest in peace. Asamoah slams Ghanaians over Ebony. I was watching, I think he had a live feed and said that Ghanaians like judging, which is true. May he so rest in peace, Ebony.
Ghanaians like what?
Judging people. Prejudice.
That's the nature of human beings.
Okay.
It's not a Ghanaian thing.
Right.
It's a people's thing.
Carol's daughter launches in Ghana, and then we have MJ drops True Love on Vows Day. Well, Vows Day has passed. It should have been done maybe yesterday or a day before. And those are the stories we have on Mavi. I quickly want us to get to the soundbite so that we don't lose time on many other things.
We will not. Let's do the Business Finder newspaper, the Business Finder. The Finder turning business on a Thursday. Front page of the Business Finder. Scrap inflation targeting policy. That's a call by Dr. Eric Osei Esibe. He's a senior fellow with the Institute of Economic Affairs. He's described the central bank's inflation targeting regime as a total failure. He's therefore asked the bank to scrap the policy and focus on growth-oriented alternatives. Details of that in today's Business Finder. Also, ECG draws inspiration from Ivorian model. Story on page 3 saying top-level management of the electricity company of Ghana, led by its board chair, Kelly Gajapo, has undertaken a 48-hour working visit to Cote d'Ivoire to study the economic model of that country's company, Ivorian Electricité, I guess so, notably for power distribution. So details of that story also in the paper today in the Finder. Quickly on the Business and Financial Times front page. So this is the Business and Financial Times. Government sets aside petroleum law for ExxonMobil, sweeping tax breaks, later contracts. Flexible intellectual property regime will spur innovation, according to a research firm. And then banking sector needs skilled people, not credentials. Okay, so banking institutions and universities must strongly look at skills and knowledge-based training that will feed the banking industry with skilled labor to drive growth. A financial economist and board chairman of HR and business consultancy firm Accrealty Ghana, Dr. Ken Kweku, has said. So skilled people, not credentials. All right, that will be it for the newspapers that we're taking a look at. And now, I guess it's a good time for us to talk South Africa. So let's talk about the South African president. Well, now former president. It's a new dawn in South Africa now. A lot of people waking up to the news that Jacob Zuma is an ex in terms of his presidency. So it's a dark period for him. A man who is not particularly happy, because we know that hours before his resignation on Wednesday night, he had talked about how everything seemed to be in a rush and he didn't know why the ANC wanted him out of power. So we're going to catch up on the BBC with how the reports have gone, and then we will catch up with. So here's Mr. Zuma, as he announced his resignation. Let's just take a listen.
Should be lost in my name. And also, the ANC should never be divided in my name. I have therefore come to the decision to resign as President of the Republic with immediate effect. even though I disagree with the decision of the leadership of my organization, I have always been a disciplined member of the ANC. As I live, I will continue to serve the people of South Africa as well as the ANC, the organization I have served all of my life in it. I will dedicate all my energy to work towards the attainment of the policies of our organization. In particular, the radical economic transformation agenda. Countrymen, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you very much for your attention. Ngiyabonga, ngiyalebuga.
That's the man, Jacob Zuma, now a former president of South Africa. Now, if we go up, let's go up, you'd see, and there's been reactions already coming from different people, but why did he resign? It's still a question that, because if you look at the immediate past, then you would not know exactly what Mr. Zuma has done. But let's look at the rise and fall of Jacob Zuma. This is still being picked from the BBC page.
You people, let's get out now, Biddy.
Reach a solution without going the route of a bloodbath.
It would be best to release Honorable Jacob Zuma from his responsibilities as Deputy President of the Republic and member of the Cabinet.
Are you a crook?
Me? I'm saying I'm not a crook. I've never been a crook. I'll never be a crook.
Untold millions have voted for the ANC.
Zuma must fall. That's why we are here.
So there you have it. That's Mr. Jacob Zuma. And, well, the party, they've got an election to win. And when it comes to rule in Africa, you know, every party is looking at winning an election. And analysts have said that that's one of the reasons. In fact, the main reason they wanted him to resign and make way for the new leader. But the ordinary South African, the many South Africans who also wanted him out, was because they're looking at the state of the economy, which they say have been very poor. He's been president for the past 9 years, and they say their lifestyles have not changed. Economy is hard, is on, I think, a record low, if you like. So they're not doing well as a nation, and he hasn't done well as the leader of the party. But this is the man who is acting president of South Africa now. His name is Cyril Ramaphosa. Remember that there was a recent election where he came through as leader of the party, as deputy president, as well as ANC leader. Mr. Ramaphosa is not even likely to step in. He is the man who is taking, who is taking the helm, being in charge of the helm of affairs. It is thought that he would not seek to remain as president, preferring to get his own mandate at next year's presidential elections. The ANC, as a party in government, would then nominate a candidate to serve until then, and Parliament would have a vote within 30 days. Mr. Ramaphosa was already the overwhelming favorite to win the 2019 election, one which Mr. Zuma was barred from competing in, having served 2 terms. So that's the man. He's the acting president of South Africa now, because Mr. Zuma, resigned. I'm also, one of the things that excites me really is the fact that he's one of the richest people, as if I'm going to get some of his money. Richest people in South Africa. He's a businessman, a politician, and many people have also said that that's the man that Nelson Mandela would have loved for him to take over. But I also listened to some very prominent people within the ANC. One person spoke this morning on the BBC, and he said that perhaps Nelson Mandela set a rather very high standard, and so it's making it very difficult for people to be able to rule. It's almost like you're in his shadows, and how can anybody get to that level? People who know Mr. Zuma really, really well say that he started off very well. I mean, if you look at his fight against apartheid and things like that, and to think that he's ended this way, and it's kind of overshadowed the good things that he's done. Yeah.
And if you read a lot of literature, he's been described as a very divisive figure now. And state capture has become a phrase that is synonymous to his presidency. Yeah. But Cyril Ramaphosa was a deputy to Zuma, and the jury is also out there. But I guess they want to keep the memories of apartheid and the domination of the ANC still high when they go to the polls next year. So we'll see how all that goes. But a lot have been happening on the African continent, because Morgan Tsvangirai, the opposition leader in Zimbabwe, especially to Robert Mugabe, the long-standing ruler and dictator, has passed on at the age of 65 from cancer. And may so rest in peace. But he had also made a lot of compromises over the period when Zimbabwe had Robert Mugabe as leader, especially after 2000, where he was docked with a lot of allegations and some charges that were leveled against him. And then in 2008, he won an election, subsequently being denied the opportunity, but he compromised of a sort, and then became a deputy to Robert Mugabe, even though we know that they never agreed on many issues. And after Zimbabwe had Robert Mugabe standing down, many thought this would have been his time, but he had been sick long before then. Yeah,
but remember, after that compromise as well, his own party, the opposition party, also got divided. So that's a man that, most often is when people die that you get to hear a lot of things, about them. They said he was a very calm person. His wife died in an accident with him. He got out of that accident standing, but not so for his wife, I think Susan, who died in that accident. So this is a very recent interview. Remember that Zimbabwe itself as a country recently got a new leader, and this was Mr. Morgan Tsvangirai speaking on CNN.
Not according to plan, I'm afraid, but circumstances have dictated that getting Mugabe to retire has always been the MDC mantra, that we knew that he was an albatross to the country. But the methods that have now been used have coincided with the people's expectations, and hence, of course, the overwhelming support this action has received.
So, Mr. Changarai, everybody's being very careful not to call it a coup. What do you describe as what happened? What did the military do that suddenly saw Mugabe step down? Not elections, not anything else could get him to step down.
Well, one can say that you can't avoid to call it military intervention because they did intervene. But the question is the method.
Okay, so that's a former prime minister and leader of the main opposition party in Zimbabwe dying from cancer at age 65. May his soul rest in peace. We want to end with this shooting in America. It's a Florida school shooting and 17 people have been confirmed dead. It's a horrific attack on a high school in Florida. So events as has happened. We go to this teacher of the school who described surviving this high school shooting.
Acolyte, yes, he turned on him and precipitated this. But do you believe that this man they call the crocodile will, as he promised, bring proper democracy to the country, restore the
fire drill at 9:30 this morning? So I told my students, I said, look, hang on, don't go anywhere. Let's see, what happens. Maybe it's, a false alarm, what have you. And then we all wound up at the door, getting ready to go out. Maybe 30 seconds later, admin came on and said, evacuate the building. So we all evacuate it. I always wait to go last to make sure all the kids are out of the class. And as I'm about ready to leave, we hear all this talk.
One of the things that we know about the person who carried out the shooting, who's been arrested, they say he would go to court, I think, tomorrow, is that he had been expelled from the school. So a former student of the school whose ex-girlfriend, he got into a fight with his ex's current boyfriend, something of the sort, leading to his expulsion, and then him coming back. But they said he was a weird guy who was into guns, something of the sort. So you can catch up with the rest of the story online, and we will bring you a lot more, when we can here on our show. But always we've got a lot more news on myjoyonline.com. You can go to myjoyonline.com and catch up with all the local and international stories as well. myjoyonline.com, bringing you up to speed with events happening around the world.
Mama V, I just wanted us also to apprise ourselves with some facts and figures if we can, and we have the time, because since 1949 in the United States, in its history, we've had a number of shootings, and in 2016 and a lot more recently, the numbers have been high. 49 people were killed in June 12, 2016, when a 29-year-old opened fire inside a Paul's Gay nightclub, and then 32 people killed in 2007 on April 16 in Virginia, and 27 people killed in December 14, 2012 in a county called Newton, Connecticut. A 20-year-old was involved. There are no more shootings that have since happened since 1949. The history doesn't look good. And one of the main opposers of the gun laws in the United States of America is the broadcaster and the journalist P.S. Morgan, who always has said that the National Rifle Association, which is mainly a dominant white and Republican association, usually is a group that is pro-guns and pro-gun wielding people of America. It's a huge debate, but usually always get terminated when the right decisions need to be taken.
I tell you what, this is not new to America. The conversations will be on who the guy who did the shooting,
and he has
how
Latino links, so they'll say.
How obsessed he was with guns. The conversation will pick up, and then it will end, and then there will be another shooting. Trust me, this is not the end. But that will be it for us, at least for now. We've got sports coming your way. Benedict has got a lot of Champions League details, I think, and other conversations in the world of sports, including we're taking part in the Winter Olympics. We've got at least one person. It hasn't been so good, I think, but Benedict will give you all the information on that. So stay with us. I want to say a special good morning to my colleague, Erastus Asare Donko in Kumasi, the only person who sent me, okay, not exactly, but he thought about me on Val's Day. So I'm thinking about you, Erastus. Thank you for the love.